Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
Let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with this question before you answer it. When was the last time you did something just for yourself? Something that had no purpose, no productivity, no one else to serve, and you didn't feel even a tiny bit guilty about it? If you're struggling to remember, that's not a small thing. That's the sound of a woman who has spent decades pouring from her cup into everyone else's, and has slowly, quietly started to believe that her cup doesn't matter. Somewhere along the way, the world handed you an invisible checklist. Be a good daughter, be a devoted wife, be a present mother, be a reliable friend, be productive, be useful, be needed. And you checked every single box. But here's the painful truth no one talks about. No matter how many boxes you checked, the list never ended. It just got longer by X, and now you may be sitting in a season of life where the children have grown, the roles have shifted, the noise has quieted. And for the first time in decades, there's space, silence. And in that silence, a voice is whispering something terrifying. If I'm not doing all of that, who am I? Am I still enough? Today, we're going to answer that question, and the answer might surprise you. I want you to know something before we go any further. I see you. Not the version of you that shows up put together for family gatherings. Not the version that says, "I'm fine," when someone asks. I see the woman underneath all of that. The one who has carried things quietly for years, who has been strong for everyone else, and who is now, perhaps for the first time, allowing herself to wonder, when does someone take care of me? You are not in a crisis. You are in a transition. Psychologists call this stage of life, roughly the 55 to 75 window, a period of a life review and meaning-making. Erik Erikson, one of the most respected developmental psychologists of the 20th century, described it as the stage where we move from asking, "What have I done?" to the much deeper question, was it enough? Am I enough? That question is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom. Because only someone who has truly lived, who has loved deeply, lost painfully, given generously, and grown honestly, only that kind of person has the depth to ask it. You didn't arrive at this question because you failed. You arrived here because you are awake. So let's walk through this together. 5 insights that might just change the way you see yourself for the rest of your life. Here's a truth that might sting a little, but it's important. The feeling that you are not enough. That persistent, low hum of inadequacy was not born inside you. It was taught to you. Psychologists call this as conditional worth. The belief, absorbed in childhood and reinforced across decades, that your value as a person is tied to your performance, your productivity, your usefulness to others. Think about the women who raised you. Think about what they were praised for. Was it their joy, their rest, their dreams? Or was it their sacrifice, their service, their selflessness? We learn what we're supposed to be by watching what gets applauded. And so, quietly, without anyone sitting you down and saying it out loud, you learned that your worth was earned. That love was something you had to deserve. That enough was a finish line just slightly out of reach so that you'd keep running. But here's what research in developmental psychology consistently shows us. Here's people who operate from a place of conditional self-worth, who tie their value to what they produce, report higher levels of anxiety, lower resilience, and deeper loneliness as they age. The checklist never made you feel enough. It couldn't. Because enough was never what the checklist was designed to give you. It was designed to keep you busy. The invitation now, at this season of your life, is to stop running toward a finish line that was never real, and to start asking, what if I was already enough before I did a single thing today? Let me tell you about a woman I'll call Margaret. Margaret raised 4 children, cared for 2 aging parents, worked part-time for 30 years, and kept a home that people described as always welcoming. She was the person everyone called when something went wrong. She never said no, not because she didn't want to, but because saying no felt like failure. Like she was letting the team down. When her last child left home and her parents passed, Margaret found herself sitting in a quiet house, and she felt nothing. Not peace, not relief. Just a hollow, restless anxiety that she couldn't name. She told her doctor she thought something was wrong with her. Nothing was wrong with her. Her nervous system was simply doing what nervous systems do when they've been in high alert mode for 30 years. It kept scanning for the next emergency, the next person to help, the next fire to put out. Neuroscience tells us that chronic caregiving and over-responsibility, particularly in women, literally rewires the brain's threat response system. The amygdala, which governs our fear and stress responses, becomes hypersensitive. Peace starts to feel dangerous because the brain has learned that peace means something is about to go wrong. So if you find that stillness makes you anxious, that rest makes you feel guilty or uneasy, you are not broken. You are trained. And training can be gently, compassionately undone. The first step is simply recognizing it, naming it. Saying to yourself, my body learned to survive by staying busy. I am safe now. I am allowed to rest. That is not laziness. That is healing. We all carry a story about who we are. Psychologist Dan McAdams, who has spent decades studying what he calls the narrative self, says that human beings are fundamentally story-making creatures. We don't just live our lives. We narrate them. We create a main character, assign that character certain qualities, and then spend years acting in accordance with that story. For many women in your generation, the story was written early. I am the strong one. I am the caretaker. I am the one who holds things together. I don't need much. I'm not the type to make a fuss. These stories weren't wrong. They helped you survive and serve in the seasons that called for them. But the problem with old stories is this: an avar, we often keep living inside them long after the chapter has ended. However, you are not the same woman you were at 35. You've survived things she hadn't yet faced. You've learned things she couldn't have imagined. You've earned wisdom that no title or certificate can measure, and yet the old story keeps playing. I am only as good as what I give. My value is in my usefulness. I shouldn't take up too much space. Here's your gentle challenge for today. What if you wrote a new story, not from scratch, but as a continuation? One that honors everything the earlier chapters cost you, and that opens into something richer and freer. What would the next chapter of your life say about you if you were the one holding the pen? There is a particular kind of pain that women in this season of life often describe, and it doesn't get talked about enough. It's the pain of comparing your present self to your past self. You look at photos from 20 years ago and feel a quiet grief. You think about the things you used to do, the energy you used to have, the body that moved differently, the life that felt more certain. And without realizing it, you start measuring yourself against a version of you that no longer exists, and finding your present self lacking. Psychologists call this errors temporal comparison. Comparing yourself across time rather than across people, and it can be just as destabilizing as comparing yourself to someone else. Perhaps more so, because at least with other people, there's some distance. But your past self, she lived in your body, she's intimate, and the gap between who she was and who you are now can feel like loss, like a diminishment. But here is what this framing gets completely wrong. That woman in the photograph, she didn't have what you have now. She hadn't yet survived the thing that broke you open. She hadn't yet learned the thing you now know in your bones. She hadn't yet developed the patience, the perspective, the quiet courage that comes from decades of real living. You are not a lesser version of who you were. You are a deeper version. A tree is not less than a sapling because it no longer grows as fast. It is more rooted, more expansive, more capable of sheltering others in its shade. You are that tree. Here's where I want to be very honest with you, because I think you deserve honesty more than comfort. Saying, "I am enough," is not a switch you flip. It is not a sentence you read in a book, feel briefly moved by, and then carry with you forever. It is a practice, a daily, imperfect, sometimes uncomfortable practice. Researcher and author Brené Brown, whose work on vulnerability and shame has changed millions of lives, says that worthiness is not something we think our way into. It is something we practice our way into dasa, and the practice looks like small, concrete things. It looks like setting a boundary with someone, even though your hands shake when you do it, and not apologizing afterward. It looks like resting in the middle of the day without mentally listing everything you should be doing instead. It looks like receiving a compliment without deflecting it. Just saying thank you and letting the kind words land. It looks like telling the truth about what you need, even when part of you is convinced your needs are inconvenient. It looks like showing up for yourself the way you've spent a lifetime showing up for everyone else. None of this is easy, but every time you do it, every single time you choose yourself, even in a small way, you are writing a new story. You are training a new belief. You are building something that no one can take from you. And over time, that practice becomes a posture, a way of moving through the world that says, quietly and with great dignity, "I am here, I matter, and I am enough." I want to leave you with an image. Imagine a woman. She is somewhere in her 60s. She is sitting in a garden, maybe her own, maybe one she's imagined. The morning light is falling through the leaves, and she is holding a cup of tea, and she is doing nothing else. She is not planning, not worrying about who needs what, not rehearsing conversations or replaying old regrets. She is just sitting, and she is at peace. And here is the thing about this woman. She didn't arrive at this peace because her life became easy. She arrived here because she made a decision. A quiet, fierce, daily decision to stop believing the lie that her worth was something she had to earn. She decided, after decades of giving, that she was allowed to receive rest, to receive kindness from others and from herself, to receive this one ordinary morning as if it were a gift, because it is. That woman is not a fantasy. She is a possibility. Your possibility. You have spent so many years being enough for everyone else. You have held families together. You have loved through grief. You have shown up even when no one saw it. You have given in ways that will ripple forward for generations, ways you may never fully know. Now it is time to turn that same generous spirit toward yourself. Not because you've earned it, not because you've finished the checklist, but because you simply are, and that, in the end, is enough. Your presence in this world matters. Your story matters. You matter, not the things you've done. You. Say it quietly to yourself right now, wherever you are. I am enough. I have always been enough. And I am just beginning. Second, now, I have a small request, and I want to explain why I'm asking. In the comments below, I would love for you to type just 4 words, I am reclaiming my peace. But not because it's a slogan, but because there is something deeply powerful about putting words to an intention. Psychologists call it expressive declaration. When we say something out loud or write it down, we engage a different part of the brain than when we merely think it. We make it more real, more ours. So, I am reclaiming my peace. Type it below if today's conversation meant something to you, if it reached something in you that needed to be reached. And while you're there, tell me, which of today's 5 lessons landed most deeply? Was it the one about your nervous system? The one about the old story you've been living inside? Or the one about comparison, the way we sometimes hold our past selves over our heads like a measuring stick? I read every single comment, every one. Because this community is not just a channel. It is a gathering place for women who are wise enough to know they have more growing to do, and brave enough to keep growing. If this video spoke to you, please share it with one woman in your life who needs to hear it today. Because sometimes the most loving thing we can do for someone is to say, without words, "I see you." And I thought of you. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and turn on the bell so you don't miss our next conversation. Until then, take gentle care of yourself. You deserve it.